values a bit better. And I'll be going back in with that later on. But right now, just washing in what I've already got. Now I'm going to just give a little bit of a wash across here. This has not really got much, you know, I probably don't actually need to wash across the river, but I do want to wash down the background mountains there, and then the more foreground hills. Give it a really good work around there. Doesn't matter if it runs a bit, because it's just, there's that little island there and the point. Getting the dark values there, and a little bit of dark along this there, up through there. So I'm fairly well got in the background now. And now I'm going to just wash in these foreground colours. You can also use here one of these little brushes. They're quite good for suggesting grass. So you can just get some more. I need a bit more alcohol here. Oops, maybe a bit too much. I just dip my brush in that, and then just go like so. It gives a very quick effect of the grasses. And now that's fine along that edge, but down here I just want to get in the dark background. So I'm just going to give that a broad sweeping wash down, and then I might put in a few of those other ones near the top with my little fan brush here. So I don't want to miss out down here. Just want to get some really nice and deep dark tones in. So that's giving me kind of the setup for this painting. I'm going to start up in the sky again, and I'm just going to be, these are all soft pastels, the Unison ones. They're very nice and soft, but they don't tend to crumble. Like Senneliers I find very crumbly, and they're not my favourite pastel, although I really like their darks. But I do find them very crumbly. I'm going to re-establish in that lovely glow I had around the tops of the hills there, going back up into the sky, and we'll just keep putting in some different blues in the sky. Just varying my stroke there, going over the colours I've already put in. And I don't want to cover everything in the sky, and I'm not going to really do much blending except with the pastel. There are quite a few clouds in the sky. I just want to get the blues in a bit more. That's the thing when you decide to limit yourself to a box, you can't quite get the colours in your reference photo, and that just means I'm going to change my palette slightly. This won't be quite so cerulean. It'll be a different kind of feel to the painting, but that's not a bad thing. I don't always want to be painting exactly what we're seeing. So now I've got the feeling we've got the blues established in the sky with the little glow down here on the horizon. What I want to do now is put in some of the clouds. And these will help give the painting a little bit of movement and direction. They're all coming in diagonally here. And as we get down lower, we're seeing more of the bottoms up here as they're coming closer towards me, and less of the bottoms as they're further away. And so just that light sort of dusting of clouds coming in there. And I will be adding some more into the clouds. So during the day, the clouds are lit from the top and they've got shadows underneath them. So I'm just going to pop in some shadows underneath the clouds there. Just a little line of shadow that I'll help to settle in a minute. And they're warmer on top because the sun, they're being lit from above, so I'm just going to warm them up slightly on top, just a touch of a warm creamy sort of colour, which I'll go back into with the whites as well. Just settle that in, so give them a little bit more substance now, the cloud. Okay, so if I want to blend that a little bit, I just use my finger, no fancy tools. If I want to blend the cloud bottoms a little bit in to the sky there, so sometimes it's a little bit hard to tell whether the bottom of the cloud starts and the sky colour is, so I'm just blending the bottom of my clouds there, making some of my clouds a little bit smoother. So that's the sky. Now I want to do these back mountains here, and they're going to be in pale blues as well, a little bit darker than the deeper value than the sky above it. Well, actually they're pretty much the same value. I'm going to do them in a bluey purpley colour, so we'll just get this out, and I just want to run it down like so. Giving sort of the shapes of the mountains there, that mountain range. I'm just putting in some blues now, just to scrumbling them over the top of the purples, because I want to vary it up just a little bit there. I can add in another one there, a little bit of pinker blue, just to give some variation in those background mountains. And that's going to be the background mountains, and some of the wash I put in earlier I'm letting show through. So I come forward to the next layer of hills, and they're a little bit deeper as well, so I'm looking for a deeper colour. Now when you've got a limited box, you might have to start with one colour and layer to get the effect you want, so I can start with a darker blue if I want to for this layer here, and then if I decide it's too dark, I'm just going to go back into it and over it with another colour to lessen that value a little bit. So there we go, up like so. So that's that layer. It is too dark for what I want, so what I'm going to do is just take my purple that I used in the background and just layer it over the top, so it just modifies the colour and knocks it back a little bit. And so if you don't have the right colour, it's just layering those colours to get the value that you want. I've got that hill in now, and it's not that boldly delineated, and that's fine because I don't really want it to. It's kind of misty back there. I can then put in the next layer of hills, which are coming through here, and they're darker still. So what I'm going to do is take the dark I used and just go in with it. Bit along here, up, around a bit there, and it sort of comes up to a peaky bit there. Then I'm just using the tip of my pastel when I want that. I also need to get a little bit of variation in there too, so what I can do is add in a few darker bits where there's little foreground bits coming in, so it doesn't all have to be that lighter blue. So that's just scrumbling over some vegetation coming down that hillside there, and right along the edge of the water there. It's quite dark, but it's only a very thin strip, so I'm just putting a little thin strip along there with some little jagged edges for the tops of shrubs and so on. That is giving it another layer, and that is going to continue up here with some trees coming in over the top of the background there in this quite dark value. So there's the trees there on the edge there, and they sort of go, they blend in kind of with the trees on this little bit of an island here, which is going up the river. So there's some shrubs on it, and then occasionally you'll be able to see the water through the shrubs there, as you can there. And in the background there, we've still got that deep dark shade of trees, minor trees going along there, and it's just scrumbling, moving the pastel around loosely there. So now I'm getting the background in there. Now over in this area I've got another paddock coming up, and actually this one has a bit of, you can see on that hill some sort of gold from the grasses in the paddocks, and sort of down here there's a couple of spots of it too. So I'm just starting in with little dabs of it over the hillside, and that's going to give us a nice contrast. Now I want to probably lift that up a little bit, so I'm just going to put another yellow over through it as well, so it's not all the same yellow, but it's giving a sense of the fields with sun playing on them. I'm coming forward a bit so I can be a little bit greener here on this hill. As I go back I need to be a little bit bluer, but as I'm coming forward I can be a little bit green. And then I'm just going to run the pastel down and blending it into some of those grasses, into that tree line there. I still haven't touched anything down here for the reflections, which I know I will need to get into, and I think what I'm going to do is just put in this far point, and then I'll start laying in some colours for the reflections. Just before I do that, I want to pop in, reinstate the crisp line of the water here where the sun's shining right on it, so I can see if I've got the right level again there, because I don't want that to be higher than that, and so I had my line of water between the trees too, behind that island, too high. That's more where it should be. And then behind that I'm just going to go back in again over here and put in some more colours, as lighter greens as we get closer to the river. And then I'm going to darken it up as we go up the hill a little bit by using some darker greens. Just putting in a few touches of darker. In fact, that's dark around here, and then it becomes lighter again up there. So that's more the trees along the bank there. And I might give those trees along the bank a little bit of a sienna sort of colour. And I just want to get back a little bit of the lightness of that area there as well. Okay, so that's my hills and my background and my sky. And that hasn't taken us very long. What I want to do now is to start working on, I'll do that little point there and then start working on the river. So on this little point, I'm just going to put some deeps in behind it, just to give us a bit of contrast. So they're going to be deep blues, and on the blue going up a hill there, so I don't need to have too much because it's in silhouette, but just there's some trees out on the point there, and we'll run that out into the water a bit more. But I'm just going to run dark colour down here. That's my island. Now the water is coming right in here. There's not much reflection in this point. It's all got a bit of a ruffle on it, so it's just the bright light hitting the water at this stage through here, all the way across here. So that's coming right up against that island, and around from behind the island there. And that's the water across there, very silvery and light. Now I'm going to start dropping some of the reflections in. So I'm looking for the darks to be slightly lighter and the lighters to be slightly darker. So this one's quite dark, so I'm going to make it slightly lighter, and that just involves me putting in, I'm just going to put that vague outline of that one. And then I'm just going to drop the colour down into it, and it's the same colour as the underpainting that I did for that one. I'm going to drop in some of those purples to tone it back a little bit, because we don't want that reflection to be quite as dark as the original. Okay, so I'm going to go back in with the darker blue, and then I'll knock that back a bit with some greens. I'm just trying to get the points to match up, and it'll go down like that's like so. And so they're going to, again, coming down with my reflections. And I want that to have a bit more green in it and a touch of that yellow that I used too, so I'm going to get that darker yellow, just a few spots of that where they're coming through. Just a couple of touches. And that will help to break it up. And some of the greens. I'm going to put some greens coming down as well. And I'm just going to break it up along the edge there. We don't want it to be too crisp an edge, so that's just the suggestion of the trees coming in there, topping up that hill. And I'll put a few more wispy touches of those up on the hill themselves in a moment. So just going all the way down that edge with some suggestion of trees, and coming back in with the green. That's that reflection done, which I'm just using with the sharp sort of tip of my pastel there. I'm just breaking up the very even edge there to suggest the trees. And then this part of the river has more of the sky and the clouds in it, so I'm just going to put some lines, and you can be fairly rough about where you're putting these, because it's not reflecting exactly overhead, so it doesn't have to match up entirely with the sky. I want some blue in there too, some blue, and the whiter colour of the clouds, which are coming in here, top of the hills, there goes my clouds. And they're going to go in behind the shrubbery there, down here, and actually at this point here I want to have a bit of that point coming through, so some of those darker colours are reflecting down, and I'm just going to put a little bit of that there. And I'm just using my finger now to smooth and blend a little bit, and I'm going to do that over here too, where the water's sort of smoothing out over the top of some of those reflections. Now I'm going to just take my watercolour and just run a few lines going across the reflections that help to tie it all to a horizontal surface. And over here I'm just going back in again with the watercolour, running a few of it through those reflections, and then I'm just going in with the sky colours, sort of running a little bit back that way, and the lighter colours for the clouds in between them. And also have to remember that reflections come down, so I'm actually just going to run my finger down like this a little bit to try and help those reflections look more like they're coming down. And because the water's smooth, I want to go into the water a bit with my finger and just smooth it out slightly as well. Then I will go back in and restate some more of the lines with pastel over the top as well. So just giving it a bit of a blend together, because I don't want too much of that under colour to come through, just a little of it for sparkle, but not too much. So I've done that first layer, and what I'm going to do now is just go in and do a few more layers over the top. So back I go with some sky colours. I'm going back in with some lighter watercolours there. Running a few lines across like so. Running a few lines up here as well. In there with the... So once again, I'm just going to... I know it seems too much, but I'm going to be knocking that right back with the other blues. Just wanted to... So you can see you can get a bit of depth even if you don't have the right colour. That makes me smile. Now I've got these foreground grasses where I want to get the texture in, and there's a lot of different colours in here, and fortunately I've got some very good landscapey grassy colours here, and there's different kinds. Some of it's grass, some of it's like rose hippie, primrosy things, or blackberries, and a few sticks and so on. So I'm just making suggestions of shrubs here. So at the moment I'm just going to go down with these sort of shrubby bits here. There's some individual leaves around the edges. So I'm just scrumbling in some different greens because there's a whole lot of greens close up to the bank there. Just making these little bits that are going silhouetted against the river. And if I don't really know what the shrubs are, I'm not getting too worried about that. I can see the general shape of them and the way that they're growing, so that's just what's going in here. There's a few bigger ones coming out like so. And if I really wanted to say something else in this painting other than what was up here, that's what I do. I don't have to keep it exactly as it is, but at the moment I'm just knocking in some greens, just the same one green here at the moment, but I'll put some more variety in a minute. It sort of comes through here. I'm just using the sharp edge of my pastel at the moment, it's just on its side. I'm just banging against the board to give the appearance of grasses and shrubbery here. You know, you can see the value now of this colour I put in before, the dark deep reds and the sienna colour that's coming through from the board, because it gives a really good contrast to all that greenery. So that's one green I've put in, and then I can go and put in a few bits of lighter greens. In a few different spots, just to give it a bit of variety. We don't want all the greens to be the same. That would be quite boring. And again, I'm doing it with the side of the pastel there. And now I'm going to choose another one. So this one's a little more yellowy green. And I'm putting some of those in, a few spots around the place. Again, for some contrast. I want some of that run up over the water as well. And that's the same yellow, the yellowy green that I used for up in the meadow there. So that's helping to tie in the background here. And so again, I might just go back and put a little bit extra there to remind myself that that's the tie-in. Harmonise it with the background a bit. None of these pastels I'm using so far are hard pastels. They've all been soft pastels, and I'm just describing the grasses with these soft pastels as well. So I want some lighter colours as well down here, and these ones I'm using with a sharp tip where it's been broken. There. Nice. There's lots of thickness down the bottom of the clump of grasses, and it spreads out a little bit as they get taller. So I'm just putting some tall ones in here, and I'm going to bring some more in from over here in the corner as well. And so I'm trying to play off some of the lights against some darker areas, just for variety again. Here amongst my greens I'll put some of these as well, and I'll give them some little like grass heads there, and then a few here. I don't want to just use that light colour. I don't want to have a variety of lights, just like I'm going to have a variety of mids and a variety of darks. So I'll just put in a couple of other colours there. I've got a sort of pale green as well, so I'll put a couple of those in. It's a very paley green. So I'm just using a lot of different lights at the moment. And I will be going back in with some darks as well. I won't be forgetting them. Use that one. I might use this yellower one. And I'll probably just do a few different sort of fatter grasses as well with this yellow in amongst that deeper yellow I did. So just a few of those coming in. In the foreground as well. I don't want to just, and right down the bottom of this clump of grasses, I'm going to put some of these thicker ones in here as well. Some sort of purpley darks here. More just as a sort of scrumble and a couple of silhouettes rather than lots of individual bits. And I'll put some of those to just a few flicks of that colour coming up over the river, making, and down here just put in some shadows in the grasses to get a little bit of variety. That will be the really dark sort of purpley shadow bits of grasses. So the bank is coming alive now. I've still got more to do, but that's coming along well. I'm going to go in with some dark blues now. They're really good for making a little bit of mysterious shadow bits in there. So I don't want there to be too much form here, detailing these shadowy bits. So just blocking in a bit of shadow, and I'll again put a few darker pieces in the foreground there as well, and maybe use that as just put a few extra dark shadowy bits there as silhouettes over the riverbank. Darks don't go so well over the lights, so where it's light over the river, this dark isn't powering in as much as it would elsewhere. But that's okay, because I don't want it too dark anyway. And where I've got that green in the background there, I'm just putting some of that blue in to give it some shadows and a few little grasses there, and then down in this bit. Down in the base of some of these, I'm just darkening them up a little bit. And putting in a few darker ones coming over the front of the lighter ones. And this is just sort of intuitive at this stage. I'm just making marks, trying to get a sense of a balance between the lights and the darks. The longer grasses and some shorter grasses up here. And I'm just going to put some very sort of soft grasses along the edge there of the river bank, in some darker colours, and they're silhouetted against that very light water. I still want to put a few more lights in here, some lighter greens down here, so I might go back into that and try some. That's not even light enough. A lot of these, because they're Unison, they're more English greens than Australian, but some of them work quite well, and this one's working quite well to simulate whatever this bush is here, because it had a lot of these lighter green leaves coming out. And then you just get a little bit of extra different textures because you've got different shrubs there. And I've got a chance if I wanted to add in some colour by popping in a few little flowers, which I might do. Put in a few flowers into that lighter one there, and maybe some touches of light on these shrubs here, of the paler, brighter green. And now that I've established that brighter green down here, I'm going to go in with something much lighter as the touches of sunlight on those. So I agree I wouldn't be thinking of using on its own for the majority of the leaves, but it just a touch here and there gives that little glint of sunlight on leaves as the plane of the leaves changes in this as it faces the sun or moves into the shadow. So they're enough to really brighten it up. You just zoom in a little bit on that, and you can see what I mean, just the little touches of brightness through there. Now we can play with these grasses as much as we like to get them exactly how we want them. And at this point I've stopped looking at my reference, it's turned off entirely, and I'm going to start doing just a few bits of added colour and interest that aren't in the photo at all, but I'm wanting to get it a little bit more interesting, so I'm popping some of those colours in. I'm putting in some brighter sort of yellows, just not too much of any of this, just enough to give it a little bit of a touch of interest in the foreground, because what I really liked about what struck me when I was driving down to my sister's, which is where I took the photos on the way down to her house, was the variety in the foreground, the colours and the textures, and the grass is sort of coming into play there, and that's what really struck me. So I want to keep true to that with the painting and not make it all about the reflections, but make it more about the grasses here. So that's why I'm putting quite a few colours in there. And I'm going to actually put in a few ready ones which will help it to contrast with the greens I've got in there. So I've got a fair few of the sunlit ones now. Nice light things. I'm just wondering if I've gone too overboard with the light. That's okay, I can add back in some darks if I want to. So it's quite colourful there. I'm just wondering if I've got the island a bit too dark there. So I'll just have a quick look back at my reference. It's quite dark. It is quite dark there. I might just, it's very blue, I might just give it a slight touch of other colour on the island there. And maybe the odd bit of bright on the island. But I do want to keep the base of the island quite dark, because that's where I'll put some seed heads on some of those grasses. Just again, that gives you a bit of variety too in the sorts of grasses you've got there. These ones have got the seeds heads going through them. And that gives you some different marks you could make, which is helpful. And some of these will come up, the darker ones will come up, and then they'll change direction and have the lighter top on them. Okay. And I might want to put a couple of dark sticks in there that are down by the riverbank, and they're sort of just sort of sticking up. Maybe another one in here. So a few sticks. Now the other thing that's in here, which is quite lovely, is a boat with a reflection, and I'm probably going to put that in because I think it makes a good transition point around here. And I'm just going to put a little bit more suggestion of variety in those trees there as they come down to the water. So let's see if I can put the boat in without messing it up. These little finishing things can be quite tricky. Yeah, the boat is a white boat, but it doesn't look anything like it. So I'm actually going to do it in blue, which I'll probably go over again. So we'll put it, I don't want to put it here because it'll be halfway, so I'm going to put it up a bit higher there. And it's just down one sweep there, sweeping around like so, and then the back of it straight across. And it's got a cabin on it, which is just up like so, and forward to the front. And what I actually need is some finer ones. So I am going to allow myself, because the Unison don't have these, to use a few of my little contes here just to trim up the boat a bit and make the very sharp edges that I need. Mark at the back there where it's in shadow. And that's all reflected down here. And down here, up where it hits the water. And back that way. Quite dark on the back, so therefore the reflection's quite dark, and it's quite dark there underneath the, and so again quite dark there, and then I've got another dark patch right there. The boat is light, reflection's going to be darker. A little touch of white on the very top of the boat where the sun is just hitting the roof. So there we go, a little touch on the roof of the boat there, and maybe on the deck there. That's good. So there's the boat on the river.